Hey everybody, Comic Crack. Wanted to do a video on a few topics, mostly kind of art related, I guess comic related as well too, but kind of a different bit of a focus, not reviewing comics or anything. I'd gone to the comic convention last year, and for some reason, I'm not sure what happened to the video. I filmed this video about kind of just about the convention and what I'd picked up and showing off some stuff that I picked up. I'm not sure what happened to that video anyway, but one thing I wanted to talk about that was from that video was the layout. Sorry, give me 1 second here. The layout of the convention was a little different this past year. They had usually it's on one floor in the big kind of convention center room, and it's kind of divided up. On one end is kind of the artists or sci-fi actors and things where you can line up and get autographs and drawings and that sort of thing. And then on the other side was what they called Artist Alley, where they had a bunch of all sorts of artists, from unknown and obscure and to more mainstream guys as well. This year, that section that had kind of the Artist Alley and the more of like the crafters and people like that were in a room downstairs, which I thought was a pretty great setup. You could really get a chance. It was a little crammed in there, to be honest, but it was nice kind of having all the people together. And one of the guys that I discovered there that has been doing comics, after talking to him, he's been doing comics for quite a long time, like years and years and years, is a guy, Robert Pasternak. And his stuff really impressed me, and it was really cool to sit and chat with him. I ended up buying some stuff from him, which I'll tell you about in a minute. His whole, I guess he had done more kind of art and sketchbooks and things like that, and then stuff that might be considered a little more traditional illustration and things. But an area that he's explored in the past number of years has been more what would be called kind of abstract comics. I think it's Fantagraphics that has a book or two, I'm not sure, maybe just one, of kind of this abstract art idea, abstract comics idea, where you're taking kind of the layout of a comic book, but you're doing non-linear and kind of abstract drawings and painting wise, using kind of the framework of a comic strip or a comic book. So that's one thing that really appealed to me about his stuff. Not only that, the different formats that he had a box that was kind of yay big, and it was kind of mimicking like a Chiclets box. It was thicker and a bit bigger than a natural one, but inside were, I can't remember now, I think it might have been 20 different miniature comic books. And if you're old enough, or if it existed where you live, I remember when I was a kid going to the grocery stores, and in the gumball machines, every once in a while there would be like these miniature joke books, or they'd be like these lick and stick tattoos, like you'd lick your hand and it would just transfer the ink to your hand, and stuff like that. So they were just these tiny books. The books inside this box were that size, if you do remember those minis. Very interesting guy, really neat to talk to him, and one of the beauty things about going to the comic convention and getting exposure to some of these guys, even though he's local and even though he's been doing it forever, I'd never heard his name, and it's not like Winnipeg is an enormous city or anything. So it was really nice. So in that video, I had shown off some stuff, and I wanted to kind of show off those again. So I guess one of the continuing titles that he has is called Acid Man, and so I picked up 2 copies of that. So I guess these would fall under the minis category as well. So what we have here is Acid Man number 30. So there's the cover of that. Hopefully that's focusing in there. And this one's from 2011. The other thing with his stuff, and I know it was in a few things that I got plus on the table, any portion of this book may be reproduced, copied in full, blown out of proportion, and turned into posters, t-shirts, what have you, and sold for barter by any individual whatsoever. Address all remarks or concerns in writing, cursive writing that is, and then it has contact information. So just an interesting idea. So this one is kind of one-page illustrations, a little more abstract in form, with some text underneath. There's not really a linear story, but just some ideas, whether they're, I believe they might be just I think the idea of Acid Man was it's random stuff from sketchbooks that he takes around town, or when he's driving, when he's riding on the bus and things, and just making little sketches and little drawings as he's going, and then compiling the better ones, the ones that he feels are better, into a little zine type book. There's a look at another page there, so that's a look at that one. The other one I got is, so there's the size of that one, and then the other one I got is even smaller, and it's Acid Man Society number 35, and I really, this one and the next one I'll show are the two that really grabbed my eye. So I think on the back it says, new armor, my new armor. At times we all need to create masks to hide behind, or we build walls to protect our fragile skins from the extremes in life. The images in this book are some of my recent protective diagrams. I really liked the line work in this one. I thought it was really, really cool. So yeah, so look at some of these pictures here. Hopefully that's coming out okay. I'll hold it still for a little longer so it can have a chance to focus in on it and adjust the light. Yeah, so I mean, it was really cool to sit and chat with him. Really nice guy, a lot of great stuff. It was the first place that I went to, it was the first place that I went to at the convention, and I didn't want to blow my wad, so to speak, on all the cash. I think all this that I'm showing you cost me, I think, $20. But it's definitely, I love supporting the local talent pool. There was a guy whose name I'm going to blank on right now, of course, a few years before, that I'd bought some stuff from as well, like an original sketch. And it's cool to see that some of this stuff is happening here in Winnipeg. There's a few artists and cartoonists and things here, but not that many, and definitely not ones that are treading in this kind of territory. I mean, there probably are a ton of people within some of the circles who are doing a lot of this stuff, and maybe they're putting them out in really, really small batches, but nobody that I've really come across except for a guy like this. Doesn't mean that they don't exist, it's just I haven't run into them yet. So then that was the size of that one, and then just a tiny bit bigger was this one. Now it's not part of the Acid Man series. Let's see if there's no, not really a title. So this one kind of plays with images and texts. So it's basically that's the completed image on the front and on the back. And then the book is filled with kind of a step-by-step as he was going along creating the piece, and then there's text around it. For example, on this one page, to get there, build a bridge, build many bridges, then get there without crossing any of them. Get lost, come back home many times, but make sure you create, explore, and shift. So there's some more looks at that there. Really great stuff, really cool. So that's a look at that. And then finally the last one I got was kind of magazine says. Oh, and there was also a, I also picked up like a little leaflet. There is a website. I'll make sure that I post a link to everything that I talk about today in the comments box down below there, and you can check it out for yourself. So there you go, is that. So then this one is Fingerprint Editions, Robert Pasternak, and it's called AM Comics or AM Comics Volume 1. And this one has what would be considered more comic strips or cartoons, still, with the exception of one or two, still pretty abstract though, and pretty out there. This is probably the closest thing to an actual comic strip in the whole thing. I'll just give you a couple more examples here, and then we'll move on. There you go, there's another page there. And we'll go to one more. Yeah, it's always, the thing about this kind of work is that, and I think it's maybe something that I've talked about before, maybe just with Sleepy Reader or maybe in general on some videos. I really respond to some of the more out there artwork. Unfortunately, I don't always respond to the text or the very loose quoted story that goes along with the images. It would be nice to see sometimes with some of these artists that I really enjoy, even like the Bald Eagles and stuff like that. I talked about in my last video. It'd be interesting to see a style like this with kind of a little more structured story instead of like a stream of consciousness type of tale or kind of random words. I mean, it's tough to talk about because to me sometimes they may seem random. That doesn't necessarily mean that the intent when making it was just this throwing together of images and words that really didn't have a relation. I'm sure to the artist they had a real relation. I just don't always understand it, and sometimes honestly the text with it takes away from it for me. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Which is why I think, you know, even when it comes to more mainstream comics, when me and my son, Mr. Tom, are reading the Rudies of the world in Winter Soldier and things, some of that art is just way out there, but it still has a story. Now I guess that could be debated by people who like it or not, to go along with it, but the style is really adventurous. Same with Matt Kint, and people like that, you know, who are, and then of course we could get into a million of the Image titles where there's a lot more experimentation happening in the context of a story. So yeah, I hesitate to go much further than that. So the next thing was my mum's cousin has kids who live in the Netherlands, and so my second cousins basically, we met them when we were really young. My Opa took us to Germany and took us overseas. I was probably, gosh, I don't even know, 10 or 11 years old possibly. We met them then, and we met one of them when they came to visit us here in Winnipeg. This was a number of years ago now. And one of my second cousins, Andy, aka Zert1, who I follow on Instagram. I also chatted with him a bit when I was on Facebook, him and his brother. But I haven't been on Facebook now for a few years. But we still follow each other on Instagram and kind of chat every once in a while. He recently had he's a tattoo artist and he's just an artist as well. He showed some stuff that he had done, and I had just made a comment about how great it looked, and he said he had a limited edition, a limited number available for sale. So I contacted him saying, hey, that looked amazing, I really would love to get a piece. And he said, don't worry about it, just send me your address, I'll throw together a package of stuff for you, and I'll send you a whole bunch of good things. So that showed up, so I wanted to show that off. And I'll put a link as well to his Facebook page and to his Instagram name as well. But it's Zert1, Zertone, and it's all one word. So, a little business card, postcard of his, like I said, he does tattoos. So there's a look at the front and the back of that one. He gave me some stickers. Nikki Golden Tattoo Machines sticker. Bunker Tattoo Blog sticker as well. And again, I'm not familiar with any of these names. This is just some extra things that he had thrown in for me. Julian Lewis, Jumping Fox. And then I think that says DaneMancini.com. There, another sticker. So that's just kind of extra things he threw in. Now I'll get into some of his work. This one was the one that I saw on Instagram. I'm not sure exactly what the material is that these are printed on. So I guess he's been playing around with like linotype and it's the wrong word. The linoleum carving, basically. So getting a piece of linoleum, carving an image into it, inking it, and using it as like a stamp, basically. And this is the one that he showed on his Instagram that I thought was pretty impressive. The size and the little bit of detail in there, hopefully that's showing up. I'll try to bring it a little closer. But yeah, I thought that was really, really nice. And then with his own stamps at the bottom, and signed by him, of course, and dated and numbered and everything. So that was the one that originally, that was the piece that I wanted to buy from him. And let's see, 2014. Is there any more from 2015? Looks like the rest is 2014, so I'll just go through the rest of them. Some more of that printed stuff. So this is 2014. There you go there. And on the back, Zert1 stamp, custom tattoos and art. Right there. This is another beautiful one. I don't think I've ever seen an image of this on his Instagram, but I really like that one as well. Real kind of evolved from a real graffiti type of style, and now kind of also incorporating what would be maybe considered more traditional kind of elements of tattooing, but still with this very, very unique style. I really like that piece as well. I think that's amazing. And then some painted work. So again, 2014. A serpent there, and then some sort of hawk or bird with a skull face there, which is pretty awesome. 2014 as well. So I don't know if this is like canvas paper or painting paper, but it has a soft feel to one side and a little more gritty on the other side. Have to look into getting a bunch of these framed maybe. Another one as well, very cool one as well. And then finally the biggest piece out of them all, and I really like this one too. What does it say? Yeah, 2014 as well. So there you go, something a little more kind of old school, traditional tattoo. I'd love to go and visit him and get tattooed by him. It's one of our special sexy lady friend lived in Germany for a number of years, and she knows some people there, and I have some relatives around Europe. So one of our one of our plans eventually is to go and visit people there, and I would love to go and visit him and get some tattoos by a family member. I think would be pretty awesome. I'm just going to show that one again because it's really beautiful, really amazing stuff. Super nice guy, and just great to have something from family. You know, I love following people through Instagram. I like it a lot more than I did Facebook, especially when it comes to art. I mean, I follow Chris Samney and some people that are, you know, that I don't know, but a lot of people that I follow are family and friends, and the ones that are artistic, I really dig it. It's really neat to see that expression, and it's amazing to have something from family in my hands that he's created himself. The final thing I wanted to talk about, I'm looking down at my phone because I'm trying to find the listing. Another thing that I'm on is Tumblr, and I absolutely love Tumblr. There's so many amazing sites. If you are on Tumblr, as a side note, look for a guy named Samplerman, Samplerman. It's all one word, and check out some of his stuff. He basically takes comics and, well, just messes them around a bit and edits them and makes these great comic strips, but also just these psychedelic kind of images like that. I don't know if that's showing up very well at all, but Samplerman is his name, just on a side note. The last person I wanted to talk about, though, was Anders Nilsen, the man who did this that I showed a year ago, Big Questions, as well as a few other things, been in some anthology books as well too. So for the new year, here it is right here. For the new year, he has a project going on that I wanted to talk to you guys about. I'm planning to contribute somehow. Conversation gardening. The thing is, a conversation with only one person talking is super boring, so I'm going to conduct a little experiment. If you want to help me out, here's what you have to do. Number one is think of a question or an idea or a thing you want me to make you a small drawing about. Write it at the top of a piece of paper. It could be anything. Who's the most important French philosopher? What's the secret to a perfectly poached egg? Why is my forward focus making that high-pitched whine? History, life advice, Photoshop tips, whatever. Surprise me. Number two, buy one of my books in an actual store, in an actual town, in the actual world. An independent web-based place is fine too. Number three, send me with the receipt and your question. And then he gives his address in Minneapolis, and then you're done. I will make a drawing on the piece of paper addressing your question idea. I'll sign and number it and send it back to you. 1 through 100, or however many I get by the end of the year. That's a lot, so I'm going to enlist a few guest artists along the way, in which case you gotta buy their books, not mine. So to start off with, it's through Birdcage Bottom Books is where I heard about this, because I follow them on Tumblr as well. So this is the project that he has going. So buy one of his books in a store or an independent web-based site store. Get a piece of paper, write your question at the top of the paper, send it all off to him along with the receipt. He'll do a one-off drawing based on your question or comment or whatever, and send it back to you. And he doesn't say it in this, but I don't know if at the end of the day it's going to be compiled into a book or something for release, or if it's just a project that he wants to kind of talk about. Now, I've only seen this on Tumblr. I did look on his website today, and there was no mention of it on there. I'm going to do some more digging, but as far as I know, it's him that started this, because in this little thread, there's a little bit of back and forth as far as somebody else also saying that they're going to do the same thing. So I assume that it's still starting with him, because he does say that along the line he'll get some other artists to help contribute, and then you'll have to do the same for them, kind of thing. Really, really cool idea. As much of a discussion as it is, I guess, proposing an abstract or an odd kind of question that may have to do with nothing at all, like he says, you know, how to do a perfectly poached egg or something like that. But very cool idea, and I love his art. So again, the tome of big questions, I'll show you again. If you don't know him, I highly recommend checking him out. His illustration style is pretty mind-blowing. It's beautiful, beautiful work. Yeah, so a good way to kind of get exposure for him, but also a chance to kind of interact with an artist as well. So a really neat project for this year. I think that's it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope I didn't prattle on too much and bore you to tears, but there you have it, some art of old and new, and a new project. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you.